r/AskReddit. What's the stupidest reason you got in trouble in school? In 7th grade English class, a classmate looked pretty sad, so I asked her how she was doing. No malicious intent, just wondering what was making her so upset. But she started sobbing. I apologized and moved on. Later that day, I got pulled from a different class by a math teacher that I'd never met before, who yelled at me in the hallway, making snide remarks about my parents and their parenting capacity. She made me sit in front of the principal's office to, quote, wait for the principal to talk to me, for 4 hours, long after the school day has ended. When the principal finally did show up, he had no idea why I was sitting there. Middle school me was too shy to make a fuss about it, but in hindsight, I should have made a complaint against her. To this day, the girl that I supposedly bullied has no idea why the math teacher flipped out on me for not looking at the teacher during lesson. I wasn't fidgeting, just sitting at my desk, staring into space. We had a payment system in 3rd grade where you'd get dollars for good behavior, finishing homework, cleaning up after lunch, and lose them for bad behavior. At the end of each quarter, we'd get to use the dollars to buy stuff at the book fair. Every kid wanted to stock up. Now each task would get you between $1 to $2. Each day, you could only get like 3 max. She charged me $20. It was literally heartbreaking and took me a full month to recover. Turns out, I had focal epilepsy and was having episodes in class. Got treated like a crappy kid for it all through high school. In 1993, the Flaming Lips song She Don't Use Jelly came out. I was in 3rd grade, and I really liked that song, and started singing it with my friends during a double-handed jump roping session. She don't use jelly or any of these. She uses Vaseline. Boom. Written up. 3-day suspension for saying sexually suggestive things. I had no idea it was meant sexually. Worse even, no one would explain why the song was sexually suggestive. It was very confusing. I got in trouble for, quote, cheating on one of my math exams. The teacher found a piece of paper in my pencil case. I got sent to the principal's office. When the principal asked me about what I wanted to say in my defense, I simply told him to take a look at the note. It turned out to be a shopping list. I was allowed to retake the exam the following week. In 11th grade, I had gotten pink eye in both eyes. I'd never had it before. Just thought I was having a reaction to my eyeliner or whatever. I was in 2nd period, cooking 101. My teacher kept looking at me funny the entire class. Eventually, she asked to talk to me in the hallway. She told me I needed to go to the nurse's office because I was stoned, and she could tell by how fascinated I was with the cooking we were doing. I was so confused and kept trying to tell her I was having some sort of allergic reaction, but she wasn't having it and yelled at me, told me to grab my things and go now. Pretty much berated me while the whole class could hear, and had me so frustrated and embarrassed I was in tears. Walked into the classroom, everyone was staring at me in silence. Grabbed my stuff and went to the nurse. One look at me and she confirmed the pink eye. Got to go home and stay home for a few days. I remember my teacher tried to apologize for the incident. Class was super awkward after that. I tripped on a loose tile and bumped into a teacher, causing her to spill her coffee on herself. I apologized and showed her the tile. She went on for months about how I did it on purpose. Even got the principal and my folks involved. For the rest of the year, she told me I couldn't come back to her class unless I apologized for doing it on purpose. Never went back to her class. Though I initially apologized for the incident, I never once apologized for doing it, quote, on purpose. F you, Miss H. Back in high school, had a gym teacher that wished to be any teacher other than gym teacher. Come the driver's ed course, there's some BS 3-page pamphlet she tells us to read through and summarize. I do just that. She decides my summary of a short-ass pamphlet is too close to something she found online. She makes a big huff about it, and I literally have to march over to my English teacher with the summaries, have her evaluate them, and sign off on a form that no, she didn't classify my summary of a BS short pamphlet being somewhat similar to any other summary of a BS short pamphlet classified as plagiarism, or was any case to pursue further action. First, I did many things to get in trouble legitimately. I went undiagnosed with ADHD, inattentive type, for a long time because I would laser focus on schoolwork and get it done quickly, then get bored and disrupt everyone else. The secretaries in my elementary school office knew me on sight when I went back to visit in high school, but there were a couple times that were questionable. Clapping. In 4th grade, I learned you can clap louder by having the fingers on one hand go into the palm of the other. I was part of a mini concert for our extremely talented string students. Oh yeah, hot cross buns. And I was kicked out and sent to the office because I was clapping along with everyone else, but the teacher felt I was being disruptive, abusing my newfound power. It was decades ago. so I can't really say if I was being a jerk or not. Sneezing. I sneezed several times, and like a duck quacking. I got it from my grandfather who did the same, if those things are hereditary. I can try to hold it in, but then it looks like I'm having a seizure. Our middle school science teacher immediately tried to give me ISS when I sneezed for the first time, and it took the whole class vouching for me before she relented. After that, people would just pause for me to finish, and I'd apologize. The stupidest reason someone tried to get me in trouble was for doing the assignment. There was a special needs kid in my programming class, and he had an assistant. She thought I was goofing off on the internet and asked me to stop. I told her I was just working on the project. She didn't believe me. She went to tell the teacher, who recognized that I was indeed working on the project, so nothing came of it. The stupidest reason someone succeeded in getting me in trouble was when we had the sub. He insisted on reading the day's instructions very slowly. It was on a work day, and that was written on the board. But he took half an hour to describe exactly what the different projects we were working on were. The problem was that we all knew what we were supposed to do, so we got started. He got pissed off we weren't listening to him, so he yelled at us and started over with the speech. Eventually, he got so pissed that he ate up another half hour, ranting how he's an industry big shot and all the different reasons he'd fire us if he could. Anyway, I had him as a substitute a few other times, and he was much better tempered, so I assumed that was a fluke. In middle school, the bell to send us home didn't go off on time. We were all standing by the door waiting to leave, when all the other classrooms started leaving to go home. The hallways were filled and teachers were telling people goodbye, so my classroom started to leave too. I was one of the first ones out, but apparently, our teacher caught the end half of the class and made them sit down and tell them, everyone who walked out the door, because I dismiss you, not the bell. So all of us who left like the rest of the school got detention. I didn't tie my shoes the way my PE instructor wanted me to. In 11th grade, sat in the dean's office for an hour before they called my mom, whose response I still remember. "You're calling me during a workday to ask my son to tie his shoes in a way that a PE teacher feels suitable? Are you freaking kidding me?" I played AAA hockey at that time, along with varsity lacrosse. PE class was the least of my worries, let alone how my shoes were tied. Safe to say, I didn't have to retie my shoes. Clearing my throat before reading out loud to the class. She yelled at me and threatened detention because she thought I was faking it for attention, but I don't see how. Also, more context, I was a quiet kid, so I wasn't one to create drama to begin with. It just made me not want to talk more than I already didn't want to. I was waving my fingers to try to get a stuck sticky paper off of it. The principal was passing my class and saw me through the door. He thought I was throwing rocks, in a class, at the back of my friend's head. I got suspended for that. Second one, my math teacher when I was 14 years old had something against me. At the beginning of each class, she would ask me to go into the corridor for 15 minutes. That was her idea of a punishment. She didn't even bother to find a reason. I just had to get out. In middle school, some kids were stomping on caterpillars during recess. I took a Ziploc bag from my lunch and put as many caterpillars in it as I could to rescue them by taking them somewhere else. I fast walked to get away fairly quickly without making a scene. A teacher stopped me and accused me of running and shoving. I didn't touch anyone at all, and when she saw the bag, she gave me an utter look of disgust. I got lunch detention for it. I ultimately switched out of that school because the staff had it in for me for some mental health issues and quirks that I later discovered was Asperger's syndrome. A couple of friends and me sat next to our favorite teacher at lunch. We chatted and joked around. It was fun. Then we left. After lunch, the janitor complained the cafeteria was trashed and asked who was responsible. The teacher, who we sat with and talked to during lunch, blamed us. We got detention and had to stay after school to clean. We all went to the teacher and said, "Hey, we sat and joked with you. You know we didn't make a mess." Didn't care, stuck with the punishment. Oh, but it gets worse. I missed the bus home. I lived 12 to 15 miles out of town. I had hours of chores to do when I got home. Taking care of animals, stacking firewood, hard freaking chores. Called my mom to pick me up. Got home, they had called my dad. He didn't care the reason. I got an ass beating for getting in trouble. Not like, oh, a spanking. Whipped me with a belt, left welts making it hard to sit. My mom believed me, so the next day, she went to the school and talked to the principal and teacher. Neither of them cared. To any teacher that reads this, please know, the kids that are getting abused, even if you don't have solid proof, please try to help them out. Don't do the stuff that puts them in more physical danger and stress. And that last story can't be stressed enough to any teachers listening. Trust me, I know you have probably more bad kids than good kids. For most of my life, I was a good kid. but when I got bad teachers, it made me a bad kid. So instead of focusing on a negative story of my own, I just want to give a shout out to Mr. Eubine and especially Mrs. Doubt in 8th grade, and Mr. Damon in, I think, 11th grade. Well, all the other teachers treated me bad because I looked like a punk kid, or maybe I just seemed like one. You guys took the time to get to know me, and I've never forgotten that. Wherever you are, I hope you're doing well. And for whatever reason, if you ever need to be busted out of jail or for someone to post your bail, just let me know. Oh, and also Mr. Phillips. You're awesome too, man.